Okay, listen to this voice. Okay, and now listen to this one. If I played you these two recordings without telling you who the singers were, who would you say they are? The second recording was Enrico Caruso. The first recording was not an opera singer at all, but one of the greatest Jewish cantors in history, Gershon Sirota. Before we go any further, let me tell you one very important piece of context. These recordings were not made under the same circumstances. Caruso recorded Celeste Aida in Camden in 1911 when he was 38 years old. Sirota recorded the same aria in 1928 when he was approximately 54 years old. So that is not a competition. I am not trying to decide who was the better singer, nor would it be fair to compare two artists recorded at completely different stages of their career. In fact, if anything, the age difference makes Sirota's recording even more remarkable. My goal here is something quite different. I want to listen to the quality of the instrument, the vocal production, the color, the registration, the phrasing, and basically the overall vocal aesthetic. Because when I first heard Gershon Sirota, I immediately understood why so many people began calling him the Jewish Caruso. Until very recently, I knew almost nothing about the extraordinary world of Jewish cantorial singing. One of my students is a Jewish cantor, and through him I was introduced to the legendary voices of Gershon Sirota, Yossele Rosenblatt, Zavel Kwartin, Moshe Koussevitzky, and many others. And the more I listened, the more I found myself thinking of the great golden age opera singers, Caruso, Gigli, Pertile, Martinelli, and not because they were singing the same repertoire. Far from it. Cantorial singing belongs to a completely different musical, cultural, and religious tradition. And I certainly do not pretend to be an expert in Jewish liturgy. I am approaching this as a former opera singer and as a voice teacher. I want to discover what these extraordinary voices can teach us. So today, rather than listening to Sirota singing Verdi, I would like to hear him in the repertoire that made him legendary. This is Ritzei. Let's listen. I have never heard this before.
Oh
that we have heard the recording, let me tell you a little bit about the man behind that extraordinary voice, Gershon Sirota. He was born in 1874 in what is now Ukraine into a family of cantors. He first gained recognition in Odessa before becoming chief cantor in Vilnius and later at the Great Synagogue of Warsaw, one of the most prestigious Jewish congregations in Europe. His fame spread far beyond the Jewish community. He toured internationally, appeared at Carnegie Hall in New York, and made numerous recordings and became one of the defining voices of what is often called the golden age of Hazanut. Many people refer to him as the Jewish Caruso. Others call him the Lion of the Pulpit. And after listening to him, it isn't difficult to understand why. The recording we have just heard is Ritsei, one of Sirota's signature pieces. The musical setting most closely associated with Sirota was composed specially for him by Scholzberg, and it became one of the most celebrated examples of the cantorial tradition ever recorded. Listen to this, several things immediately strike me. So what could I say about Sirota's voice in that recording? Well, it is a fantastic voice. Compared to the Celeste Aida, it sounds lighter because obviously Sirota was younger in that recording. The E vowel is absolutely piercing, is out of this world. Then the agility, the coloratura is absolutely wonderful. Once again, I am no expert. No, I mean it is quite unknown to me. I remember back in the day, James talking about Neil Shikoff, talking about Richard Tucker and John Pierce, one being the brother-in-law of the other. Then I remember looking at the figure of Joseph Smith, the pocket, rocket tenor, and lately Jout Loker. So I might analyze those voices later on, but when I was first presented with Sirota, I really I was very impressed. Obviously, cantorial music, it's a different ball game, so to speak. The freedom that they have to, let's say, get in and out of the voice, and all those sobs that are part of that, let's call it coloratura, that agility. In Sirota's voice, it's unbelievable. So there is a voice with tremendous weight and command, very powerful and very agile. Have I heard other things? I have heard excerpts of Sirota here and there because of my student, but this was the first time I went through an entire recording of him, and yeah, I am very, very impressed. So, what fascinates me about Sirota is that he was never trying to sound like an opera singer. He wasn't crossing over into opera. This was his own tradition, his own musical language, his own way of communicating profound religious emotions and reaching to people. And yet, from a purely vocal perspective, I hear so many characteristics that remind me of the great historical opera singers. As I've said before, the piercing, the chiaroscuro, the generous use of portamenti, the seamless registration, um, the freedom of the breath, the nobility of the vocal line. And perhaps the real question isn't whether Gershon Sirota deserved to be called the Jewish Caruso. But perhaps the more interesting question is why the greatest cantors and the greatest opera singers of the late 19th and early 20th century seem to share a vocal language that has become increasingly rare today. And that's precisely what I hope to discover throughout this series. If there are other great cantors you think I should react to, please let me know in the comment section. And I have the feeling that this is only the beginning of a fascinating journey. I'll see you next time. Bye.